Hello everyone. I am now finishing my network learning project and going to share some progress and resources that I use to learn how to knit. My goal was to learn the skill of knitting. It's something that I've been wanting to learn for about 2 years now, so this project really pushed me to learn something new. And I had a lot of different resources that helped me do this. So starting off, I found that there was a lot of information about knitting in my professional learning network, and I had to weed out information that was useful and making sure that I was getting my questions answered in the best way possible because there were so many different places that I could go to get information. So some of my teachers that helped me learn how to knit were from YouTube. I thought YouTube was a very good step-by-step resource because I was able to pause the video and work alongside these people. Ryan was my first teacher that I found on YouTube, and also they were there to tell you what some tips and tricks about the yarn, the needles that you needed to get, and some useful information for beginners, which I really liked. Some obstacles I faced when I was learning how to knit was first actually getting the needles and yarn. There was a lot of information on my through the resources that I got about the types of needles and yarn you should get. So first I got these blue needles and that yarn that the size and material of the yarn were what they recommended, but they were just the color of the yarn was too difficult, so I had a really tough time getting started. So you can see that I had to go back to the store, get new needles, and work through that with some new materials. Also going too quickly, working for progress, not for perfection, because it's very like intricate loops and knots in knitting, so it was really important to slow down and think about like the exact movement because it's a very specific loop, and once you get it, it's the same thing, but getting started and getting these first couple rows done was difficult. So I tried to do it, when I had free time and practicing, but you can see this picture on the left is me making a big knot and mistakes, so I had to start again, which happened a lot. So the resources I used Reddit, some articles from Getting Started with Knitting. It was helpful because there was a lot of pictures, but I thought it was not organized, so this didn't help me because it was very disorganized. Pinterest and YouTube and TikTok were the most helpful of these resources because they were giving me step-by-step directions and I could pause them. There's a lot of like beginner tips and tricks, and the only hard thing was making sure that I was looking at those beginner videos instead of the expert videos that were using thinner string or thinner needles or some more difficult things. The knittinghelp.com, that was actually really inviting and organized, and I felt like there's a lot of people like me that were using that, looking for tips about needles and yarn. So some progress pictures. I actually had to go to the store and get new knitting needles here and new yarn because the blue and the gray string was a little too difficult to use, so I actually went back and got some new needles and yarn, which was really helpful and made it a lot easier. So to add on to that, that's why I had to use these help forums and look at the needles I could use and go to a couple of different resources, not just looking at one, because it was helpful that they told me about the exact size and the exact type of yarn and some of the other places that when I continued to research, because at first I went to the store and those needles were way too slippery and it was way too difficult. So I really ended up figuring out that I like knitting. It's a very relaxing hobby, and I'm going to just go through and show one stitch of how I learned to knit. So I'm going to go back to my green. You can see I have about 5 rows here, so this is my first thing that I had to make after some struggles. So I found that I could put my needle up. You're going to put your needle up, you have your ball of yarn, your extra piece and work over there. You're going to go up of the knot that you start right here, cross those needles, wrap it around, going down to pull the loop off, and basically it's all about switching from this side to this side of the needle here, and that is how you get a full line of knots. So hopefully this will turn into a nice scarf or something as I continue with this ball. So I'll do another one just to show you. So here's my bigger side. I'm going up my knot, crossing my needles, wrapping it around, and pulling that knot to the other side. So now I have two knit over there. So I found that it's really relaxing hobby that I enjoy, and it made me think about how my students are also going to need, a lot of different resources in their own learning. If I found that articles and videos and step-by-step directions were helpful, then I know that my students are also going to need different resources, different media modes of representation when they're learning new skills to stay engaged and excited and not getting discouraged when they're working. So it was really helpful to have the different variety of learning tools and taking breaks and working for progress instead of perfection using all of these different resources. So I really liked it, and I'm happy that I kept with this skill and now know how to knit. All right, thank you.